All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into a pretty controversial topic.
Yeah.
It's a new executive order that just came out
Mm.
that is seeking to restore and strengthen the use of the death penalty.
Right. And it's interesting how this particular order goes beyond just reinstating the death penalty at the
Yeah.
federal level. It's
Yeah.
really trying to expand its use in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely, and encourage states to follow suit and even challenge existing legal precedents
Exactly.
that limit its application.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating, and the language is very strong in this document.
It is. It's very
Like, it's
exciting.
not just some dry legal document, you know.
It's not.
It's like ultimate deterrent and only proper punishment.
Mhm.
There's like a real sense of conviction in the language itself.
Yes. And you definitely see that in the way the order frames previous administrations,
Yeah.
particularly President Biden and his actions, almost as undermining the pursuit of justice.
Yeah.
It's talking about the 2021 moratorium on federal executions, the
Mhm.
commutation of 37 plagues.
Right. Death row sentences in 2024.
Yeah.
These are painted as direct assaults on public safety and a betrayal of victims' families.
It's almost as if they're setting the stage for a complete overhaul of how we approach capital punishment in this country.
Yes.
And they're very specific about the changes they want to see.
Yes.
You know, pursuing the death penalty for a wider range of federal crimes, providing support for state-level initiatives.
Right.
This is like a blueprint for a more aggressive, more expansive use of the death penalty.
And one of the most striking elements, I think, is the direct challenge to Supreme Court precedents.
Yeah.
That signals a real willingness to engage in a protracted legal battle and potentially reshape the entire legal framework
Yeah.
surrounding capital punishment.
So how do they justify such a dramatic shift?
Well,
I'm-
the order lays out a multi-pronged argument with
Mhm.
deterrence really being front and center.
Okay.
The idea being that the threat of execution will serve as a very powerful disincentive for potential criminals.
Yeah. Right.
And they double down on this when it comes to crimes against law enforcement officers,
Of course.
arguing that capital punishment is crucial for protecting those who put their lives on the line every day.
Right. It's to protect those in dangerous professions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's also a strong emphasis on retribution, the
Okay.
concept of delivering a proportionate punishment that fits the crime.
Mm.
The order argues that for the most heinous acts, only the ultimate penalty can truly provide a sense of justice
Right.
for victims and their families.
An eye for an eye.
Exactly.
They also lean very heavily on the notion of accountability,
Yes.
framing capital punishment as that ultimate consequence for the most egregious offenses. And they present it as a way to ensure that those who commit the worst crimes are held fully responsible for their actions.
Yeah.
No exceptions.
No exceptions.
And to achieve this, they're calling for a coordinated effort, a
Yes.
sort of united front between federal and state governments.
Streamlining processes, sharing resources, removing obstacles.
Mhm.
It's about creating a more efficient and streamlined pathway for carrying out death sentences.
It is.
But this isn't a one-sided issue.
Of course not.
We have a second source, which is an analysis of this order,
Right.
and it delves into the counter-arguments.
Mhm.
And the first one they raise is that elephant in the room,
Yeah.
the very real risk of wrongful convictions.
Absolutely.
I'm
That's the ethical quagmire at the heart of the whole debate.
Yeah,
Because there is no margin for error.
right.
Executing an innocent person is an irreversible tragedy,
Yeah,
a stain on the very fabric of our justice system.
absolutely. And it immediately throws into question that whole argument about deterrence.
Yeah.
Because if there's even a sliver of doubt about someone's guilt,
Right.
can we justify taking their life?
That's the question.
And beyond that, does the death penalty even deter crime in the first place?
Yeah.
The order claims it does, but the data is far from conclusive.
The analysis points to numerous studies that have yielded mixed results.
Right.
Some suggest a deterrent effect, others find no statistically significant impact on crime rates.
Yeah.
It's a hotly contested issue and,
Yeah.
frankly, one that's difficult to measure with absolute certainty.
For sure. And there are other practical concerns, too.
Yes.
The analysis highlights the enormous financial burden
Oh, absolutely.
of capital punishment.
Yeah.
The lengthy appeals process, the specialized legal teams required, it all adds up to a significantly higher cost
Yes.
compared to life imprisonment,
Right.
a cost that's ultimately borne by taxpayers.
By taxpayers.
Exactly. There's a broader moral and ethical debate,
Right.
which the analysis unpacks quite effectively.
Yeah.
Many argue that the death penalty is inherently inhumane, a form of state-sanctioned killing that contradicts our fundamental values as a civilized society.
It really forces us to confront some uncomfortable questions about the purpose of punishment.
What is the purpose?
Is it solely about retribution?
Right.
An eye for an eye?
Yeah.
Or should we strive for a system that emphasizes rehabilitation,
Right.
acknowledging the potential for human transformation, even in the face of horrific acts?
Yeah, and we can't ignore the historical context here.
Of course not.
The death penalty has been disproportionately applied to marginalized communities,
Absolutely.
raising serious concerns about systemic bias
Yes.
and whether everyone truly receives equal treatment under the law.
It's a valid concern.
The global implications are also significant.
They are.
As the United States re-embraces capital punishment, we risk facing criticism from the international community and damaging our reputation as a defender of human rights.
Right.
It's a multifaceted issue with far-reaching consequences.
It is.
This executive order has reignited a debate that touches upon the very core of our legal system,
Yes.
our moral compass,
Our values.
and our standing in the world.
Absolutely.
And it's a debate that deserves our full attention. We're going to delve deeper into these arguments and explore the potential ramifications of this executive order
Yes,
in the next part of our deep dive.
definitely. Picking up where we left off, it's crucial to remember that this executive order, it's not just about legal maneuvering. It's really about public perception.
Yeah.
The order specifically mentions broad public support for the death penalty and frames it as a response to the will of the people.
So is that claim really accurate, though?
Well,
Our analysis suggests a much more nuanced picture.
Yes, it does.
Public opinion on capital punishment. It's complex and often deeply divided. It's not as simple as yes or no, right?
Absolutely not.
I mean,
Numerous polls and surveys over the years have shown fluctuating levels of support, influenced by factors like high-profile cases, media coverage, and just evolving societal values.
like, for instance, increasing awareness of issues like racial bias within the criminal justice system has prompted some to question the fairness of the death penalty, regardless of their stance on capital punishment itself.
It's interesting how the order itself acknowledges those concerns, even as it pushes for a more widespread use of capital punishment. It almost feels like they're trying to preemptively address the counter-arguments, attempting to frame the death penalty as a measured, carefully considered response to the most serious crimes.
We see that in their focus on specific types of offenses, like the murder of law enforcement officers. By highlighting these particular cases, they're attempting to draw a line, say that capital punishment should be reserved for the absolute worst of the worst.
It's a strategic move, for sure.
Yeah.
By narrowing the focus, they're trying to appeal to those who might be hesitant about a blanket endorsement of the death penalty while still pushing for its expansion.
But even with that narrowed focus, we still bump up against those fundamental ethical and legal questions that we discussed earlier.
Yes.
The risk of wrongful convictions, the lack of conclusive evidence regarding deterrence, the sheer cost of capital punishment. These issues don't just disappear simply because we're talking about a specific subset of crimes.
Precisely. And that's what makes this debate so challenging. There are valid points on both sides, deeply held beliefs that are very difficult to reconcile.
It's true.
It forces us to confront not only our views on crime and punishment, but also our values as a society.
Now let's shift gears a bit and look at some of the specific actions laid out in this executive order. One that really jumped out at me was the directive for the Attorney General to reevaluate the imprisonment conditions of those individuals whose death sentences were commuted by President Biden.
It's a rather unusual provision, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And it suggests that this administration isn't content with merely reinstating the death penalty. They're seeking to undo the actions of their predecessors and ensure that even those who were granted clemency still face severe consequences.
It's a real sense of retribution woven into that directive. Almost as if they're saying, you may have escaped the ultimate punishment, but we're going to make sure you pay a heavy price nonetheless. And it goes even further than that.
It does.
The order also calls for the Attorney General to explore the possibility of bringing state-level charges against those same individuals. It's almost like a legal end-around, isn't it? If they can't pursue the death penalty at the federal level, they'll try to achieve the same outcome through state courts.
Exactly. It does raise some intriguing legal questions, though.
Yeah.
I mean, can the federal government dictate how states handle their own criminal cases?
Right.
There's bound to be pushback from states that have abolished the death penalty or have moved away from its use in recent years.
It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out in the courts.
It will.
This executive order has the potential to create some serious tension between the federal government and individual states.
Yes.
Not to mention reigniting the debate within those states themselves.
Absolutely. And then there's that big question looming.
Yeah.
The order's direct challenge to Supreme Court precedents that limit the application of the death penalty.
I mean, that's a bold move, to say the least.
It is a bold move. It signifies a willingness to wade into a major legal battle.
Yeah.
One that could potentially reshape the entire landscape of capital punishment in this country.
Yeah. It really drives home the fact that the death penalty isn't just a legal issue.
Right.
It's deeply political, intertwined with our history, our values, and our sense of justice.
Absolutely.
This executive order has brought all of those complexities to the forefront, forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our nation's past and present. And as we move forward, it's crucial that we engage in this debate with nuance, with compassion, and with a recognition that the stakes are incredibly high. This really feels like we're at a crossroads. This executive order, it's a really decisive step towards a more punitive approach to justice.
Yeah.
One that really leans heavily on the death penalty as a solution to these complex societal problems.
And it's so interesting how they've woven together this narrative that links capital punishment to all these very emotionally charged issues.
Yeah.
Support for law enforcement, deterring violent crime, delivering justice for victims and their families.
Right.
I mean, it's a very powerful message.
It is.
One that really taps into deep-seated anxieties and desires for a sense of order and security.
It definitely makes you wonder, is this really about finding effective solutions?
Right.
Or is it more about appealing to a specific segment of the population, the ones who view the death penalty as a symbol of strength and resolve?
That's where that critical thinking becomes so essential.
Yeah.
We can't allow ourselves to be swayed by just rhetoric alone, no matter how compelling it might sound.
Exactly.
We have to dig deeper, examine the evidence, and really consider the potential consequences.
Yeah, because this isn't some abstract philosophical debate.
No, it's not.
These decisions that are made at these highest levels of government,
they
have real-world implications,
They do.
impacting individuals, families, and communities all across the country.
And the death penalty,
Yeah.
with its irreversible nature, it carries this weight and a finality that demands the utmost scrutiny.
It really does.
This is a conversation that requires nuance, compassion,
Yeah.
and a willingness to grapple with these uncomfortable truths.
It does. And this conversation extends beyond just the courtroom.
Yes, it does.
It goes into our homes, our schools, our communities.
Our workplaces.
It's really about who we are as a society.
Yes.
And the values that we choose to uphold.
Absolutely.
So as you continue to learn about this evolving issue, I really encourage you to go beyond just the headlines. Beyond the sound bites.
Go deeper.
And delve into the heart of the matter.
Absolutely.
Explore the history of capital punishment in this country, the arguments for and against its use.
Yeah.
Read the stories of those whose lives have been irrevocably altered by this debate.
Those personal stories are so powerful.
They are.
Read about the experiences of victims' families who are seeking solace and closure through the justice system. Consider the perspectives of those who have faced the prospect of execution, their hopes, their fears, their reflections on the crimes they committed, and the punishments that they've endured.
And examine the data, the research, the legal precedents that shape how we approach this issue.
Absolutely.
But I think most importantly, ask yourself, what kind of world do I want to live in?
That's the question.
One that prioritizes retribution and punishment above all else.
Right.
Or one that strives for a more just and compassionate approach to crime and redemption?
It's a big question.
It is. This executive order has reignited a long-standing debate.
Yes, it has.
One that will continue to challenge us, provoke us, and demand our thoughtful engagement.
And as we navigate this very complex and often emotionally charged terrain, it's just vital that we remain grounded in a commitment to truth, to justice, and to the recognition of the inherent dignity of all human beings.
We've only just scratched the surface here today.
Yeah, we have.
But hopefully, this deep dive has equipped you with the knowledge, the context, and those critical thinking skills to navigate this ongoing conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
I'd like to said it better myself.
The future of our justice system, and indeed our society, depends on it.